We live in a world that has seen changes taking place on a materialistic level constantly, at least in the last 3 decades. There's no doubt about the many more improvements in technological advancements. Look around and you'll see people surrounded by gadgets on an everyday basis. Not that technology was not here 30 years ago, but not on the current scale and level. We had radios, TVs, and the humble beginnings of computers. Now we have them on a much advanced level, but also on a much more dependable everyday use as a mechanism for sustaining our work platforms and lifestyles. Much improvement for sure, and those who knew how to exploit circumstances have invented many more avenues to profit and free themselves financially. All these technologies seem to run ahead of us many times, and instead we as human beings to control them, the many policies that run systems and societal governance gives signs that we are being enslaved by these machines and gadgets. No intrinsic fault in them, but the fault is with those who regulate them. You can tell that they obstruct the growing of the humanistic part of society and development of the human being as a source and on a psychological domain and level. Because technologies have been abused to create inequality and to suppress others. Look around in the world and see where the power lays. It's obviously in the hands of those who used such technologies to manipulate, oppress, and subjugate other nations. But what is most scary is that in the middle of your own culture and society, the place where perhaps you were born and think you belong to, your country, and that you have rights as a citizen belonging to that country, you are actually enslaved. How? Well, because you became dependable, you are at their mercy. Your future is in their hands, not yours. Who regulates the system and gives laws and creates new policies? Is it you? Not really. So, it's governed by a source outside of your range and control. That's why you find in what should be named prosperous capitals many times people who are very poor and barely making a living because the system has prioritized those who are and were already in power. And while being in the same society, they get privileged to exploit others. You have millionaires and billionaires in the same city system, along with people who are barely subsisting. Why? Because someone is the oppressor and someone else the oppressed. The system is such that those who get the grip on power and finance are allowed to manipulate others in such a way that people are pushed into cheap labor because inequality and the majority of people, they cannot afford to have their own properties any longer. Even after a lifetime of work and paying for mortgages and most of the time their income goes for rent, utilities, and consumables, which is money lost. So the exploiter gets richer at the expense of the suffering of many. So the exploiter gets richer at the expense of the suffering of many. This is the system that we live in. It is reflected from the top by the so-called leaders who are greedy in nature, who spread this diseased society to the next generation as a legacy, and many times hereditary in the collective mind. So the so-called kings and heads of states, corporate kings and bankers, have got richer and richer by suppression, invasion of harmless and innocent civilizations over the many years. That's what got them their lineage and families where they are today as rulers and authorities. Abuse, suppression, and killing has gotten them where they are positioned today. Check the history. It is full of crimes against humanity and robberies, invasions of nations who were vulnerable, enslavement of poor people, and so on. So the powerful and the venerated heads of state have used abusive means to instate their unchallenged authority. They have financed wars and invasions. The British Empire and what is left of it as the Commonwealth was founded on crimes against people, enslavement, suppression, deprivation of liberties and rights. The suppressors have stolen lands, deprived the right to possess from the indigenous people, and instating themselves as and their companies violently as the leaders of those lands, taking natural resources and enslaving people to work on plantations and mines. So the present king, his family, his lineage, and the parliament that runs under the rulership, they are criminals. But they want to be served and to be seen as correct and lawful. You see the contradiction here? They have acquired their wealth through crimes against people, but now they want to play safe, and they position themselves as the lawgiver. And they don't want others to commit crimes or to oppose them. You cannot do the same to them. If you turn against the king and his faction because he suppressed your lineage and generations, stole your lands, and right to land from you and your own country, you'll most likely get arrested. So you're not allowed to pay them with the same treatment, but they are protected now. You can't pay them back with the same coin because they have dogs with guns to protect them. They still play the same game, the game of power. They are ready to deprive you of liberty and kill you if you contest their authority. So then the king has the right to suppress you, steal your land and kill you but you are not allowed to do so. Sounds to me that we haven't moved much in time from the Middle Ages. It is man against man, opinion against opinion, rights against rights. Who is more powerful in measure wins. So therefore, because he is placed in authority due to his influence over many, because of the feudalistic monetary system, he is allowed to exercise his muscles over the many without contestation. Who dares to challenge him? He is a man ultimately like any other of us, but his crimes have put him in a ruling chair, and the thieves gather around him, protect the lies and crimes they are all guilty of. The only thing as a difference between men of today is that the king is exercising his manhood, but the rest are deprived, impotent. They can't match the suppressor. So they made a system where they are the only ones who have the right to commit crimes and injustice. But the ordinary masses are to be punished if they would behave as the king and his pack of wolves in the parliament have done to people. They reserved the right to crime only to themselves and their faction. Manipulation and extortion is only allowed for the king and the rich monarchist House of Lords, the governors and political leaders who play his game. They all share the loot between themselves. You see, the king doesn't have to kill and suppress others in person. He's got his obedient dogs that do the job for him, which act without a trace of judgment. They think they are in service, but what they truly are is that they are enslaved, working against people and humanity. And they even have sentiments and sympathy for the oppressor. That's how delusional they are. They think they must feed their families and to serve the country. In truth, they are serving a lie and doing a great disservice to themselves and to the generations to come. Blinded by a blanket of stupidity. No objectivity in them. Lost the minds to question what lacks substance and is illogical because of the brainwashing and indoctrination. But if you put under the light of selflessness, even a fool would have the realization and that much logic to see how that the scene which is at play doesn't make sense. While a hand of man has the reins and gain favoritisms, the great majority suffer. And what is much more culpable is that the reins cultivate the suffering. So then, you all great illumined minds of the past and the present century, where have you missed to seek, to uncover and present the transparent and palpable culpability of your masters? Have they suppressed you too, or bribed you all into silence? If I can only get a slice or a chair at the table of the king then I might write only favoritisms, applauses, and merits about the suppressor. That's where they must have missed the unveiling of evidence and the pronounced crimes against humanity. So, dear fellow human beings, is it just me seeing in plain sight? Or have you all been silenced by the mundane, and have you left no time to question? The many policies and norms have taken the analytical mind from you because you are too occupied to pay for your miserable or pompous lifestyles and keeping the storyline going. Oh, I must pay my rent, my mortgage. I need to go to work. I've got taxes and bills. I need to feed my kids. Need to take them to school. My wife wants a new jacket. My wife wants a new car. My business is not having good returns because of inflation and taxation. And I need a new plan to reinvest. Don't you? I need to keep with the schedule of my boss. You see how your mental space is governed? You don't have time left to question objectively. You are being run by circumstances. You have no time left to think outside of the box. To say, wait a minute, why all this is so? While I am running like a dog to secure shelter and food, and many times basic needs, the ruling class gets literally hundreds of millions in their accounts on an yearly basis. How's that? Where am I doing wrong then? Well, you are not actually. You've been tricked to do so. You believe you are playing your game, but you are not. You are being played, and the rules, have been set a long time ago. History is peppered with the many mind-challenging actions taken by the powerful, the suppressor, that have led to building the frame which is around the picture of your possible choices in society on how to conduct your actions and the way to live your life. So, you've been framed, in short, big time. Yeah, that's what happened. Not your insignificant pursuit after security. There is no security. It is a continuous chase to secure objects that you will never possess anyway. While they have gathered so much that they can rest assured that the 10th generation after themselves is already assured to be so plentiful, to even cover 100 more generations after themselves. And you, idiots, work yourselves daily to your deathbed to pay rents and mortgages and barely have left any time to enjoy yourselves. And enjoy what, ultimately, in a corrupt system? Enjoying at your own peril and stupidity, while drinking their minds in desiring for extravagance and spend their little time left on cultivating nonsensical thinking and occupy their minds with little value and more indoctrinating programs fed through mass media. The obsessive faction of wolves plan agendas for further suppression of the masses. It's true, my dear friends. You are living in a delusion. We've been blinded, but we like to pretend that everything is as it is. Only that recently we've all been put to the wall, and perhaps we forgot. So quickly, we are all back to serve the program, back to entertain silly lives. Nothing happened, isn't it? The whole damned planet was suppressed just recently, and everyone included had to obey the new regulations as puppets without contestation, having to get stabbed by the governors of masses with who knows what mind-altering substances, and wear masks like zombies and not being able to refuse the authority, otherwise the daily access to the program and consumerism was to be suppressed. Isn't that a big shout and a demonstration of power over you? How they deal with you. They exercise and impose what agendas they have as they want. Wasn't this enough proof to you? You went back to your daily activities. You want to gather things. You want to possess. I want to have, you know, more and more. It is dictated from the top. Back to the normal. What was normal? Anyway, have you got back to the normal? Are you still there now? You are normalized by the suppressor. That's what you follow the norm. Nothing has changed, only perhaps that some puppets have gotten out of control and the panicked ruler has started stabbing everyone with mind-altering controlling drugs. And now the game is back, full on. No contestants. The pandemonic has played its cards and still planning its next move. As they arrogantly inform you, sheeple, what is going to be next in disguise of some other plotted stupid lie. They call themselves lords in the 21st century, if you can imagine, and you guys are the masses. Convenient, isn't it?